Hi guys, I'm Vincent from Van Gogh Cakes. Welcome to Cake TV, brought to you by Renshaw. Today, I'm going to show you how to cover this cake using this Renshaw fondant. It's actually made for the Australian climate where you don't get any elephant skin when you cover on a cake, and it rolls out really thinly as well. Alright, so we're ready to roll out our fondant. To start off, you're just going to knead the fondant with your dominant hand. And this will just add heat to the fondant as well, just so that it makes everything roll easily. You just want to flatten the fondant a little bit, just to create a shape that you want it to be in. So in this case, I'm going to cover a round cake, so it's going to be in a round shape here as well. My choice is to use corn flour. There are other decorators who like to use icing sugar, or they like to use shortening as well, but this is my go-to. So just a bit of corn flour, just a little bit on the top as well. So now I'm going to start rolling the fondant out. What you want to do is to try to roll the fondant to a thickness of about 4 millimeters or 5 millimeters. Alright, the key thing is when you roll out the fondant to make sure that you rotate the fondant so that it doesn't stick to your bench. And you'll notice as you roll the fondant, it will start to thin out as you go. And that's what you want. Alright, now you want to test the thickness of the fondant. What I would do is to use the fondant smoother and just place it on the side of the fondant just to see where your thickness is at. The thickness of that fondant smoother is usually about 5 millimeters. So if you're about that high or less, I think you've done a good job of that. Alright, so to start off covering your cake, you need to make sure that your cake has a good base. So I have a ganached cake over here. The ganache has time to set as well overnight, so it's all ready to go. What I need to do now is to make sure that the ganache gets tacky so that I can get the fondant to stick to it. So I'm just going to use a brush and I'm going to paint the cake all over with the hot water. So the hot water actually helps for the ganache to become tacky, and then that really helps so that the cake doesn't actually have any air bubbles once the fondant is over it as well. So you just want to make sure you have a good coverage of the hot water all around the cake. Just make sure when you're brushing the cake with hot water, pay attention to the sides of the cake. So what happens is that will actually secure the fondant to the cake and there is no tearing on the edges as well. And now we're ready to roll the fondant onto the cake. So just going to lift that up over the rolling pin. Bring the cake forward and you're going to place that so that the bottom of the fondant meets the bottom of the cake. So bring that cake closer to you and you're ready to smooth the fondant out so that the fondant adheres to the cake. Alright, so now we're going to start to secure the fondant all around the cake. So you want to make sure you start from the top. So using the fondant smoother, that just makes sure that it's all adhered to the top. Once that's done, the next step is to secure the edges. So this is a crucial part of covering the cake so that the fondant doesn't tear away from the edge of the cake at the top. You will need to actually rotate the cake every now and then so that you've made sure that you've covered all parts of the cake. And each time, whenever you have a little skirt like that, you just want to open it up and then smooth that. You want to turn again, smooth that, turn, open the skirt up, and then cover it again. So you want to repeat that until the whole cake is covered with the fondant right to the very end at the bottom. So you just want to make sure you push it down over here like that. And as you can see, opening the skirt and actually pulling it down doesn't actually cause the fondant to tear, which is what's so good about the Renshaw fondant. Alright, and I think we're done. So what you want to do now is to have the fondant smoother, and what you would like to do is to actually have it secured right to the bottom of the cake. And just make sure you do that all around. Alright, so now the cake's all covered. You want to actually cut off the excess. What I'm going to be using, I'll be using a flexi smoother. It's a pliable little contraption that I actually cut out from one of the flexible cutting boards. So what you'll be doing, I'll be using two. One is just for me to anchor my hand on top of the cake. And what you'll be doing is that you'll be trying to cut just around the edges of the cake. And that gives you a clean cut all around the cake. And you know that that fondant goes all the way down to the bottom. Alright, so now you've cut all the edges around the cake. You can actually just pull the fondant away. Make sure you keep all the excess fondant in an airtight bag because you can always reuse the fondant again. Now I'm using the Flexi Smoother to buff the sides of the cake and also help to encourage to bring the fondant up to make our sharp edges. So you just want to keep going around the cake and make sure the fondant's going right down to the bottom of the cake as well. So right now I'm going to actually make the sharp edges all around the edge of the cake. So using the fondant smoother and using the Flexi Smoother, I'm going to put the Flexi Smoother on the side of the cake and this fondant smoother on the top. And what you're trying to do is to push the fondant to the edge. You're trying to coax the fondant so that it actually creates this sharp edge that you would like. So you want to keep doing that, and this process will take a few minutes, but you'll have a very wonderful result at the end of it. And there you have it. The cake's all covered. The edges are all nice and sharp as well. You can keep going on with it for as long as you want, but I'm quite happy with it now. I'm Vincent Go from Van Gogh Cakes. Thank you very much again for joining me on Cake TV, brought to you by Renshaw. I'm sure I know the cover cake. I actually forgot. Oh my gosh, I went on a blank.
This is Vincent from Van Gogh Cakes.
Live through me off of that. Oh. Thank you for joining me on Cake TV. Blah, blah, blah. Now, the key thing with... I don't even know what I was meant to say.
The key thing with... And then do this. Do like a... Oh.
Thank you for joining me. I'm Vincent Go from Van Gogh Cakes. Hi guys, I'm Vincent. Oh.
Wait.
Welcome to Cake TV, brought to you by Renshaw Australia.